Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here at the Raptors Dive, just breaking down the Raptors' 112-109 loss to the Miami Heat, and this could have been an outstanding comeback. We had fights, we had horrific scoring droughts, some exciting plays down the stretch, but unfortunately the Raptors couldn't get the W in this game, and there's one serious problem that's been affecting the Toronto Raptors in the first three games of the regular season. Now, this is not me coming out and saying that there's the Raptors are trash, we're a horrible squad or anything like that. No. There's one issue that we definitely have, aside from injuries, which we will get into in this video because that's just extremely unfortunate. But the main issue with this squad right now is we are going through horrific scoring droughts and moments, usually coming around times we're trying to sub Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, our starting core players out of the lineup, especially Fred VanVleet at the backup point guard position, bringing guys in there. I'm seeing people in the chat already starting to talk about how, we're playing our starters too many minutes, and then we're seeing our guys go down with injury. Gary had a weird knee buckle at the end of this game. Scottie Barnes went down with an ankle sprain, didn't return in this one, and it's a serious problem. And I get why Nick Nurse is doing it. Last year, if we didn't run our starters to the ground, we wouldn't have come close to a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference last season, and we want to get these wins early in the year against, the Miami Heats, the Cleveland Cavaliers, teams we're going to be jockeying for position with in the playoffs. So I get what Nick Nurse is doing, and we see what's happening when he's taking those starters out, and where this game was lost, because the Toronto Raptors put themselves in a deep hole in this first half. They lost the first quarter 33-38, couldn't stay in front of anybody, especially at the end of that quarter, and then in the second quarter especially lost that quarter 17-33. Now, why did this happen? Fred VanVleet obviously didn't have a crazy game tonight, only 7 points, 10 assists, 3 steals. He's not going to have as flashy box scores as he did last season, but honestly, I think he's having a bigger impact on the game, being more of a facilitator rather than a shot creator. Now, we can talk about players that need to step up if Fred VanVleet's going to be taking less shots, the OG Anunobys of the world, Gary Trent Jr.'s of the world being more efficient. However, that's not the biggest problem we have. The biggest problem is that we don't really have a guy that can come in and fulfill that spot. Now, in the second half, Malachi Flynn finally got some run. I wasn't sure if he was still injured, why he wasn't playing earlier in the season, because it sounded like Nick Nurse coming into the year said that Malachi Flynn would be getting some opportunities. He came in and gave us a boost on the offensive end. Had 6 points in this one. Nothing else really in the box score. Had 3 fouls, knocked down a couple threes, which is solid, but the Raptors especially need shooting coming off the bench. But Delano Banton, for as well as he played in preseason, the same problems he dealt with last year, they're reoccurring this season. He did knock down a 3, but he's not that much of a floor spacer. He's a bit of a ball stopper and just doesn't get that many points per possession to the point where it's useful for him to stop the flow of the offense. So Delano Banton either has to become more efficient, more of a facilitator, make better decisions, or a better 3-point shooter, or else he's not going to be an effective player out there on the court. But Malachi Flynn came in the second half and offensively played pretty solid. I'm seeing people talk in the chat, Dankster saying Flynn for Rookie of the Year. However, defensive end. The defensive end is still a little bit of an issue for Malachi Flynn. Tonight, got switched on to Jimmy Butler, just absolutely tanked to the rim, and now he played a lot of those minutes, especially in the fourth quarter with Fred VanVleet. So we ran those flashbacks to where a lot of Raptors fans, even when we had the two thick boys in Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, who were both effective on defense, we did get kind of taken advantage of with our smaller size in our backcourt for many years, running Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry back there on the defensive end, even though they're both tremendous defenders for their size and can use their strength to protect the paint and all that sort of stuff. Malachi Flynn, he doesn't have the same strength as Kyle Lowry, so those holes, that we have when you're running a shorter lineup out there, they're not patched up as much as we saw back in the day with Lowry and Fred VanVleet. I digress on that point, but the Raptors need to move to more of an offensive focused system, because we go through these awful scoring droughts where, the Miami Heat, we had the 17-0 run with the Nets in yesterday's game against Brooklyn. In the Cleveland Cavaliers, there were moments where we just let Donovan Mitchell, these guys run wild, and then if Siakam and Fred VanVleet aren't out there on the court, or they're just sort of taking it back for a few possessions, we can't get those easy buckets on the offensive end. we're just kind of in a pickle. We don't have Chris Boucher. We don't have Otto Porter right now. Scottie Barnes didn't play most of this game, so I get all the injury situations, but we need players stepping up, lineups that can be effective without grinding our starters to the ground, because we're seeing it already at the start of the season. Our starters aren't going to be able to maintain 40 minutes for Siakam, 38 for OG Anunoby, 39 for Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr. 39, right? Pascal and Fred VanVleet led the NBA in minutes last year, with exception of players that played like 3 games. So, it's not a sustainable thing. We saw all of our guys get run to the ground in the playoffs, but we need that production off the bench. So I think Nick Nurse has to give an opportunity to Malachi Flynn, even if you're sacrificing some stuff on the defensive end. Get him out there, see if he can run the offense, because when he was given a nice leash back in the Tampa Tank season, he was really working the pick and roll well with guys like Khem Birch. He's knocking down his threes. It's nice that he hit those 2 shots tonight, but even if you're sacrificing a bit on defense, don't run him out there with Fred VanVleet. Give Fred VanVleet the break when Malachi Flynn is out there in the game. Let him run the offense. Let him see what he can do, and see what can happen, because we need that shooting out there. And I also want to discuss how I'm not here going to be bashing on OG Anunoby, because defensively he brings so much to this team, and I think that's something that gets overlooked. Jimmy Butler's a guy that just dominates, picks apart matchups, and yes, he did have his moments in this game, but when OG Anunoby was switching on to him, even though Jimmy Butler did get the best of him a couple times, OG just did a phenomenal job using his strength, being a wall out there, whether it be Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler in front of him, one of the quicker, smaller guards. He's an effective defender. We got to continue to bring that out because it gets overlooked. Offensively, if he's going to have more of a scoring role, and this is something that was discussed in the offseason about him being a little bit disgruntled about. I think it was overblown a little bit, but if he's going to come out here and want a bigger role, yes, 13 points is all right. The 9 boards is great. Plays great defense. Yada, yada, yada. 5 of 14 can't be what we're having from, Fred VanVleet's taking a step back. Scottie Barnes is injured in there. Our second option, our third option on that team. 5 of 14 can't be the efficiency we're getting from OG Anunoby. Right, 3 of 6 on the 3-point line, which is nice, but when buys close out on him, he has to be able to get to the rim, get to his spots, and use his frame, get to that rim. He has a solid touch. I don't really know why he's kind of, at times, just doesn't look confident in his dribble drives, because the handle does look more effective, more tight when he's out there being aggressive, making assertive takes, but he just doesn't do it consistently. So the options are there. I mean, he's taken 14 shots in this game, took the 3rd most shots in this game. Fred VanVleet's taken it a step back. OG Anunoby has to be more consistent, but he is one of our only 3-point shooters. It's nice that he knocked down those threes. And Gary Trent Jr., while he was effective from behind the 3-point arc, 7 of 18, it's solid. It's not the greatest of percentages, but it would have been nice for those middies to go down. A couple of those easy shots that he makes. I'm not going to bag on Gary Trent Jr., but we need our wing guys to be more efficient in terms of scoring the basketball if they are going to move up in the pecking order in the offensive system, especially when we don't have the bench rocking out. So it's definitely some issues. The lineups are definitely a problem for the Raptors right now. I think Flynn could be a better solution than Delano Banton, because we can't be testing things out. We have to try things out. We can't be running these guys so many minutes in the first half, second half, and stuff. But maybe Flynn can be a patch solution for this. Thaddeus Young, I thought, was effective out there, even though he was in the lineup for that brutal, he was a minus 14 for the game when the Raptors end up getting crushed. We need to figure out these lineups. We got no Bo Cruz tonight. Justin Champagnie, Jeff Doughton, those are 2 guys, especially Doughton. I wouldn't mind having an opportunity to run out there, but we'll see what Nick Nurse does, and we'll see what ends up occurring. But the chat's asking, why don't you guys do watch-alongs? We're figuring it all out. We're trying to get all that stuff organized. But overall, with exception of those moments where we went to the bench, where we sort of messed up our lineups, and the refs with foul trouble didn't get us out of our rhythm without a doubt in the first half, the Raptors showed their resiliency. They came back, showed what they can do on the defensive end when they're locked in, showed what they can do on the offensive end when they're actually knocking down shots. They have effective scorers out there on the lineup, and they made this one a game. They made this one a solid performance, and only losing by 3. You won the 3rd quarter 33-21. You won the 4th quarter 26-20. I'm not here bagging on the Toronto Raptors. I'm still extremely confident in this team. Fix our lineup stuff, get more production from the bench, we'll be good, especially when starters come back healthy. But let's give the praise. Let's start with all the praise. And Pascal Siakam continues to be a guy that looks elite for us. I'm doing up an animation about a top 5 player. The top 5, did he look like a top 5 guy? And honestly, he continues to assert himself in that sort of standard of play. 23 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists, 8 of 19 from the field. I talked about efficiency when you look at OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr., but Pascal Siakam was absolutely harassed by the Miami Heat defense tonight. There was doubles being thrown at him left, right, and center, and he was making phenomenal decisions. He was letting the double come, not rushing any plays, and then swinging the ball out and getting open looks for the rest of the Raptors squad. And that's another thing. The looks that OG and Gary Trent Jr. were getting tonight, especially in that second half, they were really open. They were looks that were just, you're left on an island. You get the, defense flying by you. Obviously, it's not them just being set on a platter, right? They created some of those looks for themselves, but just couldn't finish it off. So that made it look a little bit even more worse than the numbers indicated. But Pascal Siakam, a large part of that was him just creating for others off those double teams. So 9 assists. The way this guy's facilitating the basketball, that's what star players do. They can effectively take on a lot of load on the defensive end, from the other team's defenses, and then find the holes. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from you just being an absolute elite scorer. So that's a solid thing. All praise to Pascal Siakam. People that have been bashing on this dude are foolish. I know that people always say, "Oh, number one option," this sort of stuff, but if he's able to facilitate like this, because this was definitely not a huge aspect of his game, it definitely improved over the years, but if he's facilitating like this, alongside his finishing ability, even without the most effective three-point shot, only went 0 for 2 in the game tonight, he's looking like a proper number one option. Dare I say top 5 player. The first 3 games of the season, he's been looking at that level. Will it maintain? We shall see. But with that facilitating, man, it unlocks a whole bunch of new avenues for Pascal Siakam. So that's a huge plus there. And Fred VanVleet, I think there's going to be a lot of hate for Fred VanVleet in this one. But, the 1 for 6 from the three-point line is unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but when you're dealing with a bunch of bogus foul calls, it just sucks. It takes you out of your rhythm. Anyone that's played basketball and you're trying to stay out of foul trouble and stuff, it gets you out of your game, right? It's not something that, not excusing Fred VanVleet missing those shots, but it's tough to stay in a rhythm when you're trying to stay out of foul trouble. He got back into it in the second half, but I like facilitating Fred VanVleet. I like the style of play. I think it'll benefit us long term. And if Fred is forced to continue to play 40 minutes a night, it keeps him from having to have a major low driving in, taking the beatings that number one options in the scoring end have to deal with. So I'm cool with Fred VanVleet's performance. Gary Trent Jr. 5 threes. OG Anunoby, for all the comments I made about them, it's nice that they knocked down their threes. And there was no propaganda for the first 2 games of the season, but it's definitely coming out tonight because Precious Achiuwa single-handedly carried our bench in this one, with the exception of Flynn in the fourth quarter, but had 18 points, 11 rebounds, and assists against his former team. And I'm going to get into a bunch of stuff in the segments, and honestly, I'll throw out one here. I'll throw out a golden kazoo early in this podcast, the infamous one, the only golden kazoo. It's going to Tyler Hero, who drove the lane early in this game, and Tyler Hero's a fine scorer, whatever, but he looks like a goofball out there. He's driving in the lane, and then Precious rotated over on help. Precious wasn't even there. And then his former teammate, dead serious, trying to be a meefus about it, when you're too small to this guy. And, what is Tyler Hero doing that to Precious Achiuwa for? Precious Achiuwa would eat that guy for dinner with his just size, frame, athleticism, and stuff. And then literally 5 possessions later, Precious Achiuwa actually came in, bodied up Tyler Hero, and then gave him a full stare down this guy's proper too small, right? You can't be... It's just foolishness coming from Tyler Hero. And this guy's a big goofball. I'll be talking about him in this game as well. But Precious tonight, when he's knocking down... When he's just looking aggressive, not hoisting up too many above the break threes, he is really effective out there on the court. 18 and 11. What more can you expect from him? But consistency is going to be key for Precious Achiuwa. If he can come out and consistently get us 12 to 13 points on relatively efficient shooting, right? 5 of 9 from the field tonight, 2 of 5 from the three-point line. That's all we need. We don't need 20 plus points for Precious. It helps, but let's not have stinkers like he did in the previous outing, right? For him coming off the bench. Ideally, we're hoping for Boucher, who does have an up and down history himself, but especially Otto Porter Jr. coming off the bench, consistency there. But when you're getting a plus from Precious Achiuwa, it's nice to see. And he got better as the game went along. Hopefully, he's just shaking off some early season rust, and we continue to get this Precious Achiuwa going forward. So that's I like the chat throwing the clown emojis. Throw some clown emojis in there. Throw some kazoo emojis if we got any channel members in there for Tyler Hero. But yeah, that's Precious coming off the bench. Those are the huge pluses, and get a little drum roll going as well for, you know, the one, the only Scottie Barnes Award. And tonight, it's going to none other than Scottie Barnes himself, who, yes, the Raptors were down. They were looking lethargic out there at the start of this game, but I thought Scottie Barnes was effectively driving the rim. But unfortunately, again, with Tyler Hero coming in, I know it's not a legal play. It definitely wasn't dirty or whatever, but Scottie Barnes was in the air. Tyler Hero crawls underneath his legs. When a guy's in the air, you don't swipe underneath him and try to take a charge. Scottie Barnes ended up almost jumping over the guy, getting hooked, and then unfortunately injured that ankle. And I'll discuss this more. I'll talk about it now. It's another golden kazoo, but man, I really don't want Scottie Barnes. He was left the game, didn't come back with a right ankle sprain. He was dealing with an ankle injury coming into training camp, and it's why Nick Nurse came out and said he wasn't that effective during preseason. So let's hope Scottie Barnes is back. We definitely need his defense. We definitely need his ability to get us easy buckets. And I see a couple people saying, or I saw one comment trashing on Scottie Barnes. Scottie Barnes is a key component to this Raptors roster. Don't get it mixed up. Don't get it confused. Even though he hasn't been taking a bunch of shots, is facilitating his ability to slash and drive, hit mid-range jump shots. That is a key factor into our offense, and that being taken out is going to be a huge detriment to this team if he's going to be out for a decent amount of time. So we'll keep you guys updated on any news we get regarding that Scottie Barnes injury, because that is going to be a big issue for the Raptors. We're already dealing with Otto Porter, Chris Boucher out. Malachi Flynn's got the face mask on him. I don't know what's really going on with this team. Koloko's getting tackled, but we'll discuss all that sort of stuff in this game. But overall, in terms of analysis, before we get into the awards, I like that we bounced back. I like that the offense came on in the second half. But Nick Nurse, I think, now has a decent sample size in the first 3 games of the season. You know, the preseason and stuff. I think we can now see what lineups might be effective. And Banton out there currently doesn't have it, especially with the types of groups he's been out there running with. Give Flynn an opportunity. If it doesn't work, give Doughton an opportunity. And find that hole. Find that hole for the leak that we have currently in our bench, at least until Boucher and Otto Porter Jr. come back. So that's the analysis there. But we got some awards to give out tonight. The one, the only, the Spicy P Lay of the day. And there's definitely a few moments, the Spicy P Lay of the day it could go to in this one. And, you know, Pascal Siakam had a couple of just absolutely gorgeous. You know, Spicy P himself, any channel members, throw the Spicy Pepper animation in the chat. But this dude comes into the lane, is making gorgeous dimes out. But when the single coverage was on him, he was using his size, getting those turns, those Spicy P spins. It felt like he got bullied out of doing the spin move for a little while there, because people were roasting how he only does spins and all that sort of stuff. But the quick spin we see from Pascal Siakam is definitely back here, and he was working guys like Max Strus, Tyler Hero, Gabe Vincent, Kyle Lowry. Whenever they were switch on to him, he'd be working those guys in the lane. So that's what we like to see from Spicy P out there. Gary Trent Jr. also had a couple moments where he was hitting some threes and stuff. And yeah, Precious Achiuwa had a couple dunks. It's probably I already discussed it in the game, but Precious Achiuwa bodying up Tyler Hero and giving him the too small animation. Precious Achiuwa busting out some animations. But roasting Tyler Hero, I loved seeing that. So that's a huge plus there. But not all plays can be the Spicy P Lay of the day, and some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the OG's play of the day. It's definitely that run where the Heat just started clamping us up. We weren't getting any buckets. We're turning over the basketball. We just looked dumb in the second quarter there. I discussed it as the main talking point in this video, but it was unfortunate stuff. But also in the second half, just fouls being given to Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam. These calls were absolutely ridiculous. It's dumb. But the moment that we have to cover, it's a proper kazoo. No OGs. It's a proper kazoo coming out. And that's going to none other then not only Gabe Vincent, who is out here looking like, for the WWE fans out there, looking like Edge, looking like Roman Reigns, just sparing people for absolutely no reason, but the referees who, one, it felt like in real time they took a half hour just covering all the angles, covering everything. They probably had GoPros, secret GoPros and all the players' cams. They probably interviewed a couple people in the front row. I don't know what the heck they were doing for however long it took them to review that incident, but it took them about an hour. And after all that, because for people that didn't get to see it, Christian Coloco got just hooked and thrown to the ground by Caleb Martin. Then Caleb Martin, who, again, another smaller dude going to 7'1" Coloco, who's on the ground, standing over him like, yeah, that's right. You just got bodied to the rim, man. No, nothing shows toughness like going for a rebound and then some dude straight from behind yanking him straight to the floor, right? Caleb Martin's really a tough dude, without a doubt. So standing over Coloco like that, Coloco just straight up stands up, and then immediately, Gabe Vincent steps toward him, and then Coloco literally gets pushed back. Yes, he did grab onto Gabe Vincent because he was getting speared. The dude was getting his shoulder tackled right into the front row, right? Like, what's he supposed to do? Is he not supposed to grab the guy that's spearing him? Is he just supposed to take it back, take the dive, pull a Jimmy Butler, throw the head back, head whip? Is that what Coloco's supposed to do? Break his spine, break his neck? No. He's supposed to grab onto the dude. He didn't instigate the foul. It was Vincent that fouled him. It's Vincent that stood over him. It's Vincent that speared him. How are you throwing out Christian Coloco? Like, why? If you're reviewing it for a half hour and that's your observation, paired alongside all the stupid fouls they gave to Siakam and Fred VanVleet when the Miami Heat are hacking us just as much as we're on our end, right? Like, it's stupid. Like, the Raptors lost this game because of that run. Same with the Brooklyn Nets. It's not the referee's reason we lost, but it is just infuriating seeing that happen. And did I mess up his name? Caleb Martin. I don't even know what Gabe Martin. I don't even know what the heck I called him, but just absolute stupidity. Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin. Fellas, I don't even. It's late here. I gotta get up early in this one. I'm losing my brain here. Caleb Martin. I apologize for that, but I digress. Caleb Martin's out there looking stupid. Gabe Vincent's also out there being a mephist too. I'm hating on all the Heat players here tonight because the Raptors should have won this W. It's like, what a clown, man. Just straight up. Tyler Hero out here looking like he's, ready to body up Precious Achiuwa in this game, giving two small sellies and stuff. And then Caleb Martin, man. Stupid. Absolute stupidity. But Raptors, they face off against Miami on Monday. We're going to get them back. But I want to see what the chat has to say about this game. Might be an actual 2-minute final alarm. Let's get it rocking. Woo, 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 woo. Beep, 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 beep. Woo, 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 woo. Beep, 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 beep. That's right. The final alarm has sounded. I want to see what you guys have to say about this game, about everything that's happened with the Toronto Raptors and stuff. And yes, it was Caleb Martin. That's my bad. But in honor of the final alarm, let's get a like spike going on this podcast. Got 214 people in here Saturday night, living it up with you folks. Appreciate everyone that's tuning in. But people are saying tank for Wembanyama. Dante, while I love the alien on this team, we're not tanking. We're a really nice roster. We're going for top 3 seed. But thanks for saying we're on the grind, always. But we're getting them Monday without a doubt. Scooby-Doo saying Kyle annoyed me. And folks, I've gotten roasted on this podcast for being not a hater of Marcus Smart. Not like a massive fan of the guy, but I don't hate the dude. That's what Marcus Smart did to us all those years. Kyle Lowry was doing to other teams much worse, because Kyle Lowry is a much better player than Marcus Smart. So I'm always like, yo, if we're loving Kyle Lowry, we can't be hating guys like Marcus Smart, even like Patrick Beverley's of the world, right? Like, you can hate them in some sense, but you can't like disrespect the way they play. But watching Kyle Lowry play right now, like, I see why other fans and stuff did not like Kyle Lowry. I get it. Now, I love the dude to death. I am not going to bash this man's for 1 second. But Kyle Lowry does Kyle Lowry things. He had the dagger play in this one. Logical Raptors fans bringing it up. Or he finished the game. He had a couple of moments where, especially in the fourth quarter, yes, what did Kyle Lowry, what were his stats in this one tonight? 17 points, 6 assists. Actually a solid box scores. Kyle Lowry hasn't been putting up some great box scores for Miami Heat, but makes winning plays. He did it with us, but with elite box scores, with all-star sort of skill level. But tonight, that finish he had over Pascal Siakam to seal the deal, that's a big play for Kyle Lowry. He had one moment where the Raptors played tremendous defense. It came out to Kyle Lowry in the corner, and he just threw one of those lob passes that was reminiscent of the game winner he hit through to OG Anunoby against the Boston Celtics, right cross court. I think it was to Strus, but to someone in the corner, they hit a three. That was an unfortunate moment at the end of this one. Lowry just makes winning plays, and it's annoying. It's annoying when you're on the other side of it, but we got the benefit of it for, it felt like a decade. So I'm not disrespecting it whatsoever. So that's what's happening. Tom M saying Koloko would foul out in the first quarter if he started. Yes, that is facts. Flynn gave us 6 points. That is true. Flynn looked good tonight. Flynn, from what I gathered from the chat, I went on a little rant there when I was mostly talking about, so I missed a lot of the chat messages. But throw it in the chat right now. Delano Banton or Malachi Flynn. Who do you want to see get minutes in the game against the Miami Heat on Monday? Because Delano Banton certainly brings more on the defensive end. That's without a doubt. Flynn was getting picked apart there at times. But I think if we run Flynn with not Fred VanVleet out there on the court, he can stay on the smallest dude. We can cheat our defense on top of it, right? Even though it's not switchable, we need shooting out there in this lineup. So I'm all for giving Flynn. I don't want us to bury Delano Banton onto the bench, but until he fixes those holes in his game, it's tough. But Harrison saying Flynn. Everyone's out here saying Flynn. We don't have a tank commander anymore, right? We don't have Aaron Baines. We're not going to be able to get a top pick. But PD saying Banton offers nothing. I disagree. I think he's very effective out there on the defensive end, and I think he pushes the ball well in transition. In the half-court offense, given our current system, it does feel like he offers nothing at times. So I do see what you're saying on that front. Mostly Flynn's in there. And Predator Kingdom is, I agree, stop talking about tanking. But Irvin saying, hey, let's go Raps. Love to see it. But recency is going nuts. Yeah, that's what's happening. I'm definitely not saying Banton is the better player. I don't think Malachi is definitely the better player just yet. But I want to see Flynn have an opportunity because clearly there's issues with our bench. And Malachi Flynn seems to fill more of the holes that we have with the bench unit than Delano Banton does. Even though Delano is a good defender and fast break scorer, we need half-court offense. Those stretches just absolutely kill us. Now, the defensive end is an issue during those stretches as well. So it's tough, but we gotta try some things out. We got to try some different things out. And Harrison saying Gary looked hobbled. We gotta pray for the star boy in this one because Gary looked injured. Scottie Barnes ended up having that ankle injury. We got two of our most reliable pieces off the bench. Not to say they're better than Precious, but Precious is very inconsistent. It's tough. It's tough. We gotta have next man up mentality. Like the Heat had a couple guys out, not as big of players, but we have injuries last year. Nick Nurse brought it up coming into the off season. The Raptors with health and safety protocols, with injuries, with everything that goes on into the league. You gotta build a roster that can handle injuries. It's just the modern NBA. And we made our signing of Juancho Hernan-Gomez. A lot of people wanted Josh Jackson. Juancho Hernan-Gomez was told to be a rotation player. 0 minutes tonight. Bageled. Healthy scratch. Justin Champagnie made the roster. Healthy scratch. Right, Kem Birch is out there. Gave us some nice minutes in preseason. Healthy scratch. So we'll see what ends up occurring. Folks, definitely don't overreact to this one, even though we're down 1-2 in this regular season. We got a tough schedule. I said it from the jump. Raptors are going to lose some games early on because we have a ridiculously tough schedule. We're coming into our own and all that. But I like the way we're playing. If we patch up the holes that we have, I think we've had a tremendous start to the regular season. So everything's all good, but you guys are the best. Definitely subscribe to the channel. I'm going to push the subscriptions. I don't care about everything else. You guys can subscribe to the channel. You've been watching 215 people in here. It would help us out big time. So on that road to 26,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys as always. Anyways, have a good night. We'll be back on Monday. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.